Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Backstage, the film and TV podcast from Sky News. I am joined today, I'm thrilled to say, by our power pundit and general legend, Stevie Wong, and Sky Arts and entertainment correspondent, Katie
I'm
Spencer.
the ghost of Christmas future.
You're hovering over my shoulder like a ghost. This is very weird, Stevie Wong.
Now,
I'm watching you, Katie. I'm watching.
Always.
Keen listeners will know we're not in our usual studio today. We're almost all in one place, although Stevie, of course, being miles across the ocean, is in a screen, but in the same place. So it's festive fun.
I like it, although Stevie kind of looks like he's in heaven almost. It's a very clean, white place that looks like it'll be very comfy.
Oh, very festive, Katie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So this episode, we're going to look back at all the amazing TV and film that we've had offered to us this year, so that if you want a big old binge over Christmas or New Year, then you've got some recommendations. Some of this stuff you're bound to have heard of, others you might just have sort of missed. Hopefully we'll offer some bits that you're not aware of, and we're going to let you know what to look out for next year as well. So here's a little taste of things to come.
Okay, here we go.
So let's start off with TV then, and we did our usual, well, we've not done our usual thing where we sort of do some very complicated maths and collate a kind of top 10. We just sort of got everyone to feed into a general list. So, which is why you will then hear loud complaints from
I'm not happy. Every year this happens, and it just, this year you're filming me ranting, saying, what is this list? Come on.
But there are definitely things that you do like on the list. So I'm going to start off with my favourite because I'm the one talking, and I'm going to go with House of the Dragon. Now, it feels like a bit of an obvious pick, and I'm sure loads of people will have obviously seen this already. Of course, the big, highly hyped Game of Thrones prequel that arrived on Sky finally this year. It was sort of almost did battle with the Lord of the Rings show, which was also, got fantasy stuff in it.
And the Sandman as well.
Yeah, no one else thought that the Sandman was in that battle, Katie.
Oh, okay. Just me.
But I absolutely loved it. I thought they smashed it. It was such a good, satisfying series. It's obviously been renewed. Katie, you're wrong.
It's awful. Why is this on your list? Stevie Wong, did you even get into this in the end?
I mean, I watched it, but it was not on my favorites list. I think the acting was very well, but I think it's all right. There are other shows on this list that kind of superseded my favorite shows of the year, which we'll of course talk about. But Claire, let's hear what you have to say about House of the Dragon and why
it's my
it's
number
so
one
good.
favourite show of the year. I think you're right. The acting was great. The casting was spot on. Matt Smith, perfect role. Absolutely loved it. The story was good. I mean, I know it was also based on a George R.R. Martin book, so people kind of knew where it was going. I hadn't read that book though, so I very much enjoyed being taken along with it. And I'm so glad there's more to come. And I'd missed that sort of backstabbing world of Game of Thrones. They just do it better than anyone else.
But my issue is that it just wasn't as interesting a world as the Game of Thrones one was, because you had lots of worlds going on, and this just felt a bit, if you didn't care about the dragonsy stuff.
I mean, but the dragons themselves are just one part of that small world. I will have to agree to disagree on that, because I think it was arguably possibly better than some of the Game of Thrones.
No.
What?
Not the entire
No.
thing, and certainly not like, but yeah, I think maybe better than the last one. Okay, well, but like I say, it's sort of an obvious pick, because I feel like most people who are going to watch House of the Dragon watched House of the Dragon and already know about it. So maybe let's talk about something that people might have missed. Shall we chat about The Bear?
Oh, I absolutely loved The Bear. I feel like actually Stevie Wong has to take credit for this, because he was the one that said, have you seen The Bear? You guys have to watch The Bear.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. It's on Disney+. Watch it. Please watch it. I've watched them all in one night. Stevie, so you take it, because you're the one that turned us all on to this.
The Bear was a really fascinating setup because in the US it was on a network called Hulu, and what they ended up doing was they just like released it in one go, and people discovered it over time. And then what had happened was I kept on seeing the bear, the bear, the bear on my Twitter feed, and finally one evening I was like, let's see what this bear is all about. Same like you, Katie, did the whole binge and then walked out of the whole thing going like, this is the best thing I've seen this year. And the only way to describe it, if you don't know what The Bear is about this young guy who comes back to take over his family restaurant. And he comes from one of these like super popular and Michelin star kind of place, and he's now going back to do these sandwiches in his Chicago cafe, basically, and that's the best setup. And somehow in this couple of episodes, it is so intense. It is really
the cooking
just,
side of it, it's so stressful seeing them in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Some of it's in real time, and it gets your heart racing as they're trying to put these lunch orders out so quickly. Also, just seeing that the food looks gorgeous. I've never wanted a sandwich so much in my life as I do watching this. But also, I just think they were just incredible actors. I know, like, the point of acting is they're meant to be like assume other characters and not appear to be acting, but with this you just watched it and you just thought they just seem real in the characters that they were playing in this. And it's so brilliantly short, these episodes, brilliantly poignant at times, and you just watched them all, ate them up really quickly like a sandwich from the shop that they're selling, and you just wanted more. I really hope it wins awards next year.
We're not. I mean, they will, because across the board, pretty much every kind of guild that has a television component to it, they've nominated as like best series, best actor, best supporting. So everybody that has seen this really has been moved by the experience, and they're doing a second series, and I'm not even sure how they're going to be able to top what they brought to the table this time around. But I don't care, because I'm ready. And I mean, the Bear is a monster, and I want to be all over it. So it's all good.
Next to another slightly controversial pick on Katie's thoughts anyway. Let's talk about Severance, which was a big hit for Apple TV+. This came out like right at the beginning of the year, so I kind of feel, not that I'd forgotten about it, but I'd sort of forgotten about it. But then it has turned
There's a lot of House of Dragons in the meantime.
There's been a lot of fantasy in the middle there. But then it did turn up again on some of the awards, the early awards lists that we've been seeing. So it's obviously also had an impact. And it's this kind of strange concept. It's quite hard to explain, but it's sort of set in a very near future where some jobs or some companies, you can sever your work self from your outsider work self, so you have no memories of what goes on in the other half of your life. You're either at work or you're out of work.
So you can have a brilliant time out of work, and then you log in with your past, go in, and there's a different you that has to do all of the boring stuff that no one cares about.
And it's I think it's no spoiler to say that our lead, played by Adam Scott, he's grieving, so that's why he does it, so he doesn't have to remember this grief for kind of half his time. But it's a weird show, and the aesthetic is really strange. And it was championed by Ben Stiller, who also sort of directed the first episode. And it was picked up off that blacklist of scripts that sort of go around, and people are like, "Ooh, that's good." But it took a while, and now that it finally got done, it seems to have been a big success critically, anyway. And they are making a second series, so that's all to suggest it probably did some okay numbers. But again, Katie, you weren't.
Oh, I know.
Because it came out at the beginning of the year, and you don't like anything you haven't seen recently.
Yes, basically I've forgotten about it, which is a very so you make a good point there. But there was just so many shots of them walking down corridors, stump, walking down a corridor.
The aesthetic was so strange, and I loved it.
And it was very clever and very clever, but I can't be bothered to watch anything that's just endless walking down corridors and making me think too much. I just want short episodes. Don't make me watch these long things that tax my brain.
Is it too challenging on the brain though, Stevie? Because I think maybe that is slightly off-putting to people. It is quite a difficult concept to wrap your head around, I think.
It's not like we're not trying to put physics onto screen. I think
like,
in
how
this
does that
case,
work? How does that
Severance got better as the mystery of what was really going on within the office, because one of the members wants to get her memory back, and it just keeps on fighting, and it just gets weirder and weirder, and so you really want to see how this plays out. And I think the second it starts to go into a bit of an espionage of sorts, corporate espionage, then it gets really interesting, and
It was quite slow.
you kind of forget about the
though.
aesthetic,
Quite
but I think
slow
it
to
gets
play
better
this
as the
out.
series continues.
Yeah, kind of is slow, but it kind of and there's this really great storyline, and Christopher Walken's so good in it, and I don't know.
I don't have to like it just because Christopher Walken's in it.
I know, but he is really good in that. No, I think you don't have to like it, but I do think it's worth a watch. If you want like a bingey kind of Christmas series, if you're sort of stuck at home with family and maybe you kind of want something to kind of get lost in another room while everyone...
Get lost in like a corridor where you get endlessly lost, where there's constantly scenes of you being lost in corridors.
There's outside the corridors, but now you're saying that, I can't recall any, but there definitely is stuff that goes on outside the corridors. All right, one for you then, Katie. Possibly more for you than anything else we've talked about thus far. Bluey returned for a third series.
Oh, I'm aware this makes me look really basic coming off the back of saying that I don't want to watch anything intellectual. So I basically this year...
Dare you? Bluey is very
quite
intellectual,
intellectual.
particularly the most recent series.
Oh, well, if you don't have children, then Bluey is this wonderful children's cartoon. But also, I think you don't really need to have children to watch this. It's just genuinely really funny. It's this Australian... cartoon dog family. Two of them are sort of like toddler age, and then it's the parents as well. Bluey and Bingo are the children, and it's just wonderfully funny. And I also think, as children's programs go, it's just genuinely quite an inspirational show, that it actually gives you ideas of how you can parent as well, because the imagination that they have within this family, of the games that they come up with, of faking that they're going on train journeys and they're at the vets and things, it's just, I feel like I can't quite do it justice of how genuinely funny it is by just saying this. I'm making it sound like it's some sort of educational
and
film, but
that's
it's brilliant.
It manages to tread that line where it sort of inspires you as a parent, but doesn't like wallop you over the head and make you feel like a bad parent because you're not as good as Bluey's parents, who are brilliant, Bandit and Chili.
And is it wrong that I fancy Bandit?
Well, that's what I was about to say. And Bandit's also become this sort of cartoon pin-up, a bit like the fox from Robin Hood back in our day. He's like the now kind of desirable cartoon.
It's wrong, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but he's very he's a very attractive dog because he's such a great dad. He's such a great dad.
Good dad, yeah.
And but yeah, it is worth a watch because it also gets quite trippy, and as they've kind of realised it's such a huge success. In a sort of slightly, I think, similar vein to The Simpsons, it becomes, they can sort of experiment more with the episodes because they know that the fan base will go with them, they know the audience will go with them. And so you start getting these really kind of slightly sort of strange, surreal episodes, but they actually work really well. And you're right, it's not just for the kids at all, although you can sort of see why people might be put off thinking it is just a kids show. But it's very good.
If you've got nieces and nephews coming over at Christmas, get on Disney Plus or the BBC and stick this on, and actually it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. Next up, not one of my favourites this year, I have to say. It's The Crown Series 5. Right, who put this on their list?
I don't know.
Me and Stevie.
All right, Katie, let's hear it.
Katie's like, well, it did come out in the last month. So.
Oh, don't! I have such a bad reputation. Okay. But genuinely, I haven't really been into the period drama stuff of the other episodes of The Crown, but I don't know whether it's because of my age, love, that when Diana died, I guess I wasn't fully across what was going on with the royals, and this is just such a nostalgia fest to have that real sort of 90s period brought to life. Elizabeth Debicki, I mean, she's fantastic as
I
Diana.
agree, Elizabeth Debicki is absolutely fantastic. I don't love the other casting.
Dominic West?
I find Dominic West totally distracting. Because
I also think it's a little bit career suicide for Dominic West, because now I don't find him in any way attractive. Now he's done with Prince Charles.
But also, he don't like when Josh O'Connor played Prince Charles, and I do think that was an incredibly difficult performance to follow because I thought he was so good. But when he did it, he disappeared into the role. But Dominic West it's like he's just playing Dominic West. I don't know.
That's the scene behind the ears.
Yeah, it doesn't work for me. I find it too distracting. It's like, oh, this is a movie, a Hollywood version of the royals. And I don't love Imelda Staunton as the Queen either. I loved Claire Foy and I liked Olivia Colman. I don't think it's as good as the previous one. Stevie?
I didn't last past the first episode only because we had to watch it. I think maybe I don't really care about this family anymore. For me it ended with Diana and so kind of drawing out or bringing back the storyline of that is just kind of depressing, and I for me at least, and I don't really need to know any more details of how she was dealt with. And so I don't know, I watched it and I appreciate everybody's acting, but I agree with Claire. It's like over the period of time all these other actors have like set such a high bar, and so now we're just watching to see who the next gang is going to be, and are they, and it's not as exciting as maybe the initial couple of seasons were, but
is it wrong that
I get it.
the reason that I liked it is because it became a bit more soapy and a bit more kind of salacious.
And that's the
Right.
other thing is, I think I'm slightly put off by the fact it's now in sort of my vague memories, whereas but I think a lot of people are really into that because they're sort of seeing it almost like it's been such a big debate, hasn't it? Are people taking the crown too literally as kind of a
that's
historical
ridiculous,
reference
though,
and
don't
all that?
you? I think we all know that they're making up these conversations, and that's why it's quite funny sometimes, because you watch these scenes and you go, that wouldn't have happened like that.
Well, yeah, I think that's true, but then also that maybe kind of ruins a bit of the mystique as well. I don't know. I still think it's a great show in terms of I think the production is amazing, the production design. I think the costuming, the attention to detail. I would always argue the attention to detail in The Crown is one of the best. It's so enjoyable just to watch in those terms. I just didn't love it like I liked I loved the last two series, and this I don't know.
And to sum up, yeah, agreed.
We must mention it's only just wrapped up, The White Lotus.
Sharp inhalation of breath, The White Lotus finale. Oh my God, we can't even.
Well, we're not going to get into.
We can't say anything.
We're not going to get into that stuff, but we will talk about just the sort of the task that The White Lotus had, because the first series was a mini series. It was just a one-off, and it was brilliant, and everybody absolutely loved it.
So good.
Written and directed by Mike White, and it was kind of very satirical, cynical look at this super posh hotel and the people that worked in it and the guests that attended it. And it was brilliant. And then, of course, because it was brilliant, they said, "Oh, we'll have another series." And you think, "Oh, how is it? You're never going to live up to
ruin
that.
it.
How can you possibly write another brilliant series set in another hotel that's going to, be as good and as intriguing and as entertaining?" But he did it, didn't he? Well done, Mike. Absolutely. Is it better than the first series? I don't know. It's so hard because now I feel like it is, but maybe it isn't.
No, because I feel like I spent a lot of the time, whenever I've had conversations with, because it did give you water cooler moments, literally, with this, because it was like weekly drops, wasn't it, of episodes. But I do feel like when I was talking to people in the office about what they thought was happening next, I did always have to say, "But don't you miss Murray?" I miss Murray.
Yeah.
There was no pooing in a suitcase. You
No,
can't
but
trump
there
that.
None
were
of that.
other stuff though.
True.
There was plenty that goes on. It's one of those shows that's quite hard to talk about without getting into spoilers, which is why we're sort of dancing around the actual what goes on. But this one was very much more a study of kind of relationships and
Jealousy
power
and
balance
sex.
between men and women and sex and things. But it absolutely nailed it. And the best thing about The White Lotus is there are sort of no goodies and baddies. Everyone is sort of part goodie, part baddie.
Morally bankrupt.
Yeah, there's lots of grey areas. No one's perfect, which is pretty perfect for a show.
Great watch. It's been a good December, actually, hasn't it? At the end of the year. Or again, am I just getting
No, it has.
All
It's
of
been
the
a
best
good
shows
December.
were in the last month.
And now let's talk about Stranger Things, which returned to Netflix this summer.
Yes.
Yeah, was it
Yeah.
summer? Anyway, it feels like ages ago now. And the thing about this year's Stranger Things is they decided to come back with episodes that were so
Too long.
long.
Too long.
So long. They were like, "Oh, we'll just make films instead of TV episodes." Now the line is forever blurring between TV and film. It was hugely successful for Netflix, which is good because they spend an awful lot of money on it. But people really love that that show. Did it live up to the previous series, Stranger Things fans?
No.
Yep.
In summary, I just think it's indulgent. Why have those ridiculously long episodes? Make it short. It's a TV series. Keep it short. I mean, it's good. It was good to have it back, but I just got a bit weary
My
of it.
main criticism is too scary. It's too scary.
Yeah,
now.
really scary.
So scary.
Even though it's not meant to be for younger audiences, we know younger people watch it, so it is a bit. They pushed it.
I think so. Although Stevie, you're making faces like you loved this series.
I was very happy with it, and also as the characters get older, of course things are going to get scary. The people might die, and you know, and what I loved how this series was, it felt like there were so many water cooler moments. Basically, they reignited Kate Bush's career. You know, Eddie is a rock star. I mean, these are all really cool things that became cultural phenomenons, and it had to do with how wonderfully emotional and people were invested in this one more so than the last Stranger Things, I think. But I agree with you. Some of these were really long, but I was obsessed. I could not wait for the season finale. I I sat in front of Netflix waiting for 3 o'clock to come around to so I can press play, and I haven't done that in ages. So in that sense, I really appreciated this season a lot more than the previous one.
Should we talk about films though? Because it has been a huge year for films. We've had some blockbuster movies coming back. We've had The Return of Black Panther with Wakanda Forever. We've had Tom Cruise, of course, coming back with Top Gun. That was a long wait for that one. Even we've had George Clooney and Julia Roberts getting back together in a film. That's on top of, look, we've had a new Batman, and we've had 2 of the sort of blockbusting multiverse adventures, a cannibalistic horror, and we've also had a pretty weird biopic. Should we start with Batman?
Yeah. So I put this on my list, and I thought really hard because I wanted my list to be not necessarily my top 3 films of the year, but kind of reflect different kind of parts of filmmaking. So this was like my blockbuster choice. So I nearly went for Top Gun Maverick, but I was like, no.
I think you should have gone for Top Gun Maverick, woman.
I absolutely loved Batman. When I think about it, I should say I'm sort of predisposed to it because I love that noir thing. Like Seven was one of my favourite films.
Yeah.
And this is like such a lovely sort of homage to those movies. And I thought Robert Pattinson, who I actually find quite annoying, was so good as Batman, which took me by surprise. And I thought the villain was great. And even though it was long, it didn't feel long, which other films could learn from. And I honestly... Avatar. But even though it came out pretty early on in the year, it still remained one of my favourites throughout.
We're going to go through our list. This is the big blockbuster that we've got on our list. This is the only big blockbuster. Really? We're putting Batman above Top Gun?
Yeah, for me, I love Top Gun as well. I did. I really enjoyed it. I gave it a really glowing review on Sky News, in fact. But for me, I preferred the Batman. And also, I kind of think, you know, the reason we haven't got loads of other blockbusters on this list is because people will have seen the blockbusters. The blockbusters are attracting people to cinemas still. There are huge audiences going to see Wakanda Forever and, you know, we'll go and see Avatar and things like that. Whereas actually a lot of the other films on this list aren't attracting those films. So that's why I think we've probably not got loads of.
And now it's on the list, it is quite making me want to watch it over Christmas, actually.
It's a really
Yeah.
fun, yeah.
If you fancy a bit of darkness. And
depressed.
Depressing.
If Christmas is too fun for you.
Why not immerse yourself in,
a depressing world of Batman, so yeah.
What about Weird then? I think Weird is the Daniel Radcliffe offering, isn't it? It was the sort of mockumentary version of the life of
Weird Al.
Weird Al, who did the Just Eat It, all of those like fake songs that were out in the 80s and 90s.
Weird Al's a weird character. Daniel Radcliffe is known for kind of picking weird in terms of sort of career-y Hollywood roles, you know, instead of choosing, you know, the Batman-esque stuff, he's like, yeah, no, I'm just going to go and play Weird Al Yankovic in this strange biopic. But it kind of premiered at festivals this year, and it gathered a bit of a cult audience. People really seem to kind of enjoy it and warm to it, but it is a bit of a silly one.
I think if you like Radcliffe, then it'll be an enjoyable watch for you if you put this one over Christmas. But I just didn't really, because it was based on the Funny or Die short sketches, if you like, weren't they, which were about 10 minutes. I kind of could have just had a 10-minute sketch and I would have been happy. I didn't really think it merited being turned into this really long film. But I can kind of see why it's on the list.
Well, it's a bit different, isn't it? It's a bit silly. It's a bit fun. People do love biopics, like they really do. And but this is sort of one with a difference because it isn't
like real.
Yeah, it's not real. Yeah, and it's silly. But I think we like to see kind of people disappearing into other famous people in terms of characters and acting and things like that. So yeah, and like you say, if you're a fan of Radcliffe, this is just more of him just having a good time. It really feels like he kind of got his Harry Potter bank and then was just like, you know what, I'm just going to do roles that I think will be a laugh.
Yeah.
And good for him, why not? So yeah, perhaps one that you might not have spotted in the year, but that is perhaps worth a little watch over Christmas.
Big grand announcement for the next one from Stevie Wong. This is your top tip of what's going to do very well at all of the awards this year, isn't it? Come on, what should we all be talking about?
You can totally tell that it's already like won over a lot of the critics, and slowly but surely, if you're following like all the award ceremonies, like this film, Everything Everywhere All at Once, is kind of at the front of the list for so many people. It came out of nowhere. It premiered at South by Southwest, and it was a movie that had been on the shelf for almost 2 years because they shot it like 2 years ago, and it basically is a multiverse story about a mother. Oh, I don't even want to spoil it because it's just so weird. But it is Michelle Yeoh playing the mother, and she kind of has to pay her taxes, and then things go crazy from there on. And it doesn't sound like an action movie, but it is. But it's also not at the same time. And
but how funny, we've got a multiverse film on the list, but it's not a Marvel film.
Yeah.
That's shock, horror.
Yeah.
It also, I think it really boils down to the creativity of the directors, the Daniels, two guys who had their start doing music videos, and now they are definitely with this film, they are now at the forefront of like what kind of movies that, I mean, they're huge now. And so for us to see this movie being the one that is taking their career to another level is just so heartwarming, especially when you kind of break down this movie even more. It is about family. It's about mothers and daughters. It's about regret, which you might not be able to see at first because it's surrounded by the most insane images that you'll see this year. And it just is a film that like bears watching again, and which I've done 3 times, and every time I've really appreciated this movie even more. And so when there's a win, it feels like we're all collectively like winning together. And so it's quite emotional this year watching everything do all the award series, the awards now.
I think, after Coda's win last year, it sort of suggests that the awards bodies are, I'm thinking specifically of the Oscars, they're up for something that might kind of give them a bit of a feel good. Perhaps back in the day it was more of a, your Oscar winners tended to be, the films that maybe left you feeling a bit, whoa, but now it's like, oh,
the depressing ones.
Yeah,
skirting around the issue.
Like heavy,
really
depressing ones. Yeah, but actually it's not the heavy, depressing ones that kind of took it last year. And I could see Everything Everywhere certainly picking up plenty of nominations, and I would say Michelle Yeoh is very much a front runner for Best Actress. Will it get Best Picture? I don't know.
I think so.
I'm not
as
convinced as Stevie at this stage. I'm not sure. I'm still plumping for other things, but still a really brilliant film, and just like a wild watch. Like, it's so fast paced and there's so much in it that you will not get bored. Even if you don't like this movie, I promise you won't get bored in it. Like, it is absolutely intense. So
like how Jamie Lee Curtis has launched a sort of one-woman war against the comic book nerds as well, hasn't she? By daring to say this kind of out-Marvels the Marvel multiverse films as well. Oh, don't anger the comic book nerds.
Don't
Come
anger
on.
Jamie Lee Curtis. Don't mess with Jamie.
Should we talk about After Sun, though, as well? Because this is the next one that we've got on our list. It's more, you talk about sort of Oscar films. This one is more sort of traditional Oscar bait, isn't it? A very small production that's a lot more kind of serious. You did the interviews for this one this year, didn't you, Claire?
Well, it's a first-time female director doing her first feature-length film, Charlotte Wells, and it's I think I hate calling this kind of thing a period piece because it's like, oh, I remember that.
When
How
we were
is
young.
a period all like, Victorians in funny outfits? But it's sort of set in the 90s, and it's a really simple story of a single father who's kind of struggling with mental health issues, and he takes his daughter on holiday, and that's the setup, and that's kind of what it is, but it's just really beautifully told. And actually, Paul Mescal, who was already sort of so beloved from normal people, and everyone kind of was really waiting to see what he did next, and The Lost Daughter came out, and he had a small role in that, but people kind of really liked it, and now he's this lead in this film, and it's just, people absolutely love it. And I think it sort of surprised everyone that he's kind of turning up in some best actor lists and things like that, and he's one of our kind of biggest British stars right now, which is pretty exciting. And certainly, it's nice to see him, around and about, because he's a very attractive man.
Basic. It went basic.
Yeah, we're basic.
Look, who voted for Fresh on Disney Plus then? Because I didn't even see Fresh. What? Did I say that out loud?
Stevie, I'm sure.
I know. How dare you?
I definitely did. This was one of my favourite films of the year because it sort of took me by surprise. It's, again, you don't want to spoil it, but it is a horror, and the setup is just Daisy Edgar-Jones's character called Noah is having a series of bad dates with guys she meets online, and then until she meets this seemingly lovely guy in the local supermarket, but perhaps he is not so lovely after all. And it's just, I really, really like this. It's got Sebastian Stan in it, who's excellent. And it's one you might have missed because it just sort of landed on Disney Plus quite early in the year. It didn't get loads of fanfare, and so it might have passed you by. But it's definitely worth a watch over Christmas, New Year. But you've got to be sort of ready for it because it is a bit scary.
I love how we paired this film up with After Sun, which obviously Daisy Edgar-Jones and Paul Mescal were both the leads in Normal People, and now we see them going off to do their own thing. Fresh is a lot of fun only because Daisy Edgar-Jones she's not a victim, and so this is a woman that's extremely intelligent. She's just gone on a really bad date, and the whole movie is really about watching her get out of this situation, and it is so compelling, and I'm just so happy to see her do something that's out of the boxes. I feel like because Normal People was such a kind of prestige series, she could have easily gone to star in a period piece or something like that's Oscar baity, but instead she went and did this horror movie instead, and that gives me an idea of like what kind of career she wants, which is a very varied, smart career, and so that makes me very excited that these two leads have kind of moved into this world where they are kind of taking control over what they want to do, and it is all exciting. So whatever they do next is something I'm more than happy to follow along.
This is very unlike you picking a scary film, though.
I know, that's what I mean.
I know.
It must be really good if I picked it and it's scary because I'm the biggest wuss out there. So, yeah, really worth a watch. And I really think a lot of people just won't have even heard of it. And that's the best way to go into it. Don't Google it. Don't watch the trailer. Just watch it.
Yeah,
fresh.
don't.
Just, as it says on the tin.
Well, sticking with films that offer just really interesting roles for women as well, we have to talk about Woman King as well, because for Viola Davis, this is the film that everyone is talking about that is going to possibly get her an Oscar nomination next year. Do we
Viola
think?
Davis, an Oscar nomination?
Oh,
Surely not.
no. Not again.
But I have to say, with this, I think it's very much worth it. This is sort of based on a real group of female warriors who protected a kingdom in West Africa in the 1800s. And these women, I mean, badass doesn't begin to cover it. And to make the film, they did incredible amounts of training. So Viola Davis, Lashana Lynch, Tusam Bedu, they are all absolutely at their physical
Brilliant to see how they look.
Yeah, they look incredible. And it's been shot by a black director who was very clear to the cinematographer that these women needed to just look better than black women have ever looked on screen before. And the film is so good just to watch. Again, even if you're not into the story, just the way it looks, the visuals, the cinematography is so stunning with this movie. But actually, you will like the story because it's really good. It's like an action film, but it's not a Marvel-y action film.
Yeah.
It's like something else. And we don't see women kind of in these roles. And if we do, it tends to be the kind of Hollywoodized version, whereas these are just women who are like trained warriors. It's a different kind of setup, and yeah, loads of actors at the top of their game. It's so good. Like, yeah,
remarkable
really
that it's
good.
based on true sort of story history as well.
Yeah, exactly. And there is some sort of controversy around that's perhaps maybe muted this film a little bit. Maybe it didn't get the buzz it did because there was some sort of rumblings around the fact that the kingdom sort of was allowed the slave trade to go on, even if it didn't sort of, it sort of profited from it and things. So people are saying, maybe we shouldn't be making films about that. But actually, this film isn't really about that. It's about these women, and it is just it's a roller coaster. You have such a fun. I cried. I laughed. It was.
I am going to be quoted on the poster.
I did the lot. Well, I'd say that because normally I'm like Stony, and I don't usually cry.
Yeah, it takes a lot to get you to tears, doesn't it? Come on.
This one had me. So I think one to keep an eye out for. If you didn't see it in the cinema, then definitely check it out. But on a nice big screen with a nice big sound system, because I think it would really benefit. Don't watch it on your phone.
Well, remarkably as well, last on our list of film picks that's made it into here as well is another horror then, The Menu.
Well, it's not a horror. It's got horror elements.
Scary though. Not scary, but yeah.
Tense, I would say.
Okay.
Again, it's such a good setup. It's about a group of people who go to a fine dining experience, like super fine dining-y restaurant that's very small, and you have to get a boat out there. So once you're on this little island, all there is the restaurant and the staff, and that's it. And you are at the behest of the head chef there, who, without saying too much, has put more on the menu than food. Our main sort of characters are played by Anya Taylor-Joy and Nicholas Hoult, who are just both really, really A-list actors. And I don't know, for me, this film did fall off a bit in the third act, but the sort of setup in the first half is really, really enjoyable.
Stevie? Was this one of your
I was like, do I talk? I don't know. All right, I'll go. I agree with you, Claire. I mean, for me, I didn't mind the third act. To me, it was very interesting to see how once things. Oh, see, this is a hard one because you don't want to spoil anything here. So I don't want to say anything. Okay, here it is. It is interesting to see how this dinner plays out, and everything is seen through the eyes of Anya Taylor-Joy, who wasn't initially invited to this island. So she's kind of like a new guest, and so she has no idea what the food's about. She has no idea what this person, the chef, is, played by Ray Fiennes, and so all of the incredulous and weirdness kind of is seen through her eyes, and she plays a beautiful, like, kind of central character, Margot, and I think she's the reason why this movie plays out so well, because somewhere in there she also understands the tone, which is extremely wicked. It's directed by Mark Mylod, who did Succession. He works on that show, and there's just a lot of dark comedy going on, and Anya's very good at like writing that fine line of like being a damsel in distress but also a hero of the story. So I loved it, and I think everybody who was curious about this should really go in not knowing anything. There's a dinner, and that's it.
Yeah, again, don't
I
Google
just
it.
say I got confused with the ones that, because I remember this week when Stevie was like, come on, I'm going to try and get you all the screeners for The Menu. You have to see The Menu. The Menu's really good. And I then got confused between that and The Triangle of Sadness, and The Triangle of Sadness is a very different film entirely. And I went to watch The Triangle of Sadness, and it was like a lot of awful traumatic scenes in The Triangle of Sadness, and then realised that this wasn't the one that Stevie was
also
I think like
I can see
if anything, this year
There's
has
a boat.
proven that
Eating,
like,
fine dining,
this is the one Stevie wanted me to watch, and then with the horror of actually some of the things that happen on that boat.
A very different kind, although also worth a watch, you know.
Oh no! Don't bother with that one. It makes my stomach churn.
But I think 2022 is really the year that we are more than happy to make fun of the rich, and I think that's been a riding theme for a lot of these movies and even TV series. White Lotus is kind of a look at the ultra wealthy and stuff too, and so we are more than happy to see them all go down because I don't know, maybe it's culturally this is a thing that we want to watch on our screens.
Well, it wouldn't be Backstage without talking to a wealth of Hollywood and television stars. And what a year it's been in terms of talking to the celebrities. We've had everyone on. We've spoken to Sylvester Stallone,
Jeff Bridges,
Viola Davis,
Kate Winslet,
Daniel Radcliffe,
Brad Pitt,
Jessica Chastain,
Dave Blooming Grohl.
God, we've been busy, haven't we? Shall we take a listen now to some of the stars that we've spoken to? Well, you join us here on the red carpet for the premiere of Bullet Train. It's classy, the fight scenes are incredible, the humour is great, and it stars the man who is next to me right now, Mr. Brad Pitt.
A whole bunch of other people who are fantastic.
Yeah, that's true.
One of them is very loud right now.
But then you're like, wait, hold on, that's me. and then it's continuous.
And then you go back to.
And then you're like, but hold on a second.
So, oh yeah, this is life. This is wonderful. And everything became kind of hyper precious during that time.
There is a sweetness and a kindness and a joy to all of this.
Does the character secretly want to be a Wakandan?
That's funny. No, I don't think he does.
I have had to push the button. If I don't, I will never be the artist that I've always dreamed I could be.
You played me one day as a crazy person, I'd be delighted.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So when the opportunity came, I thought, well, we're probably the only band that would do something this ridiculous, so we might as well.
I don't think there's 30 seconds that go by that she doesn't say something humiliating about me, which it cracks me up.
But in a nice way.
In a very rotten, nice way.
I love women's stories so much, and so I get really inspired by the strength of women. I grew up where in the history books never really talked about how incredibly dynamic and exciting and brave and heroic women are.
I'd like to do something like that. Not so much it's not about the money. I just want to do that for memory.
And he asked, and I said yes. I mean, why on earth would I not? Also, my children would never have allowed me to not say yes. Yeah, they were like, Mum, just do it. It's so exciting. He's sending the script. They're like, just do it, just do it.
Thank you so much for your time. It's been a joy to chat to you. Congratulations on the Emmy.
Hey, thanks.
It's so lovely to see you booked and busy, and I hope the show goes great. So thank you so much.
Hey, thank you so much. Yeah. Bye.
So as we close out 2022, let's look ahead to next year and the promise of big shows and films coming our way. So gang, what do you think is going to be the things that we're going to be talking about all next year?
I think
the power.
I mean, it's a lot of this stuff is kind of coming up quite soon next year, so I don't know if it's slightly cheating, but I'm going to kick off with The Last of Us, which is already sort of starting to get bubbly hype over here, because I think it comes out right at the start of...
based on the video game.
Yeah, this is based on the video game, and it has a massive cult following. Lots of people say it's kind of one of the best games of all time. It's about Joel and the teenage girl Ellie, who they are kind of brought together and kind of trying to find their way through life during a brutal zombie apocalypse.
Who doesn't like a zombie apocalypse?
And I know that it's sort of we sort of feel a bit like, oh, zombies not done, as sort of The Walking Dead sort of limped off this year, didn't it? But actually the expectations are very high for this, and I think that's partly because it's got. The stars are Pedro Pascal, who, I mean, come on, he is like just riding high at the moment. And then Bella Ramsey, who was so great in that film. She led a film, Catherine Called Birdie.
Called Birdie.
Yeah, we talked about that on the podcast, and it was a decent film. It's directed by Lena Dunham. It perhaps didn't have loads of cut through, but this will probably be what then launches Bella Ramsey into household name kind of stardom. It's produced by HBO. So, you know, when we talk about really great shows of last year, they were behind some of them. The bar is high, so huge expectations for this, but I've got a feeling they're going to live up to it.
Ooh, The Fabelmans is the big one that everyone keeps going on about as well, don't they? Steven Spielberg's semi-autobiographical take on his life as well. I mean, you guys have seen it. I haven't actually seen it yet because it doesn't come out in this country yet, but you caught it at a film festival, didn't you?
It's going to be, I think, one of those, much like West Side Story actually, where people that see it really love it, and it kind of is critically acclaimed. West Side Story, of course, won an Oscar for Ariana DeBose and was up for many more. I think this, personally, is the biggest threat to Everything Everywhere All at Once at the Oscars and could be very much in the running for Best Picture. I think if the Academy are minded to award Steven Spielberg for his lifetime of brilliant work, that it would be for something like this, which is semi-autobiographical, rather than Your West Side Story, which is obviously a remake. And all that aside, it's just a really, really nice film. It's a great film.
Sometimes it's just your time, isn't it, for the Oscars? Is this
your
Spielberg's time?
But Stevie thinks no.
I don't want to get into trouble because there's so many fans of Steven Spielberg, but I think this film is fine. It has some wonderful performances, and sure, I'm all about everything. So yeah, you can say whatever you want, but I will be on that Everything Everywhere train to the end.
Okay, but what else is on your list then, Stevie?
Well, I mean, what year of 2023 then without a film called Cocaine Bear? The only kind of movie I want to see. I have a weird feeling that next year will make me extremely happy because there's so many weird kind of high concept genre movies that like sound so stupid that you have to watch it in the cinema. And so this falls into that in that world. It is exactly what it is. A bear takes some cocaine and then goes on a rampage.
Yeah,
and that is all I want to know.
Yeah. And also, it claims it's sort of based on a true story. I'm like, how?
I know, but the true story was not it didn't end well for the bear, and so I think they changed the whole thing. It's just like the bear finds a big block of cocaine, and then everybody in that forest has to pay for doing that.
I mean, it's directed by Elizabeth Banks, who has a sort of hits and misses. I would say it's fair to say about her.
Well, sticking with wild, fun, and silly, I opted for the Barbie film next year. Is that wrong with me? I know it's probably going to be awful, but just when you look at the pictures of how Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling look, it just looks tremendous. It's directed by Greta Gerwig, so come on, it has to be quite funny, doesn't it? Oh, and Will Ferrell's playing the CEO of Mattel.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some laughs in there.
All the quality is there, isn't it? It's got all the ingredients to be a really great movie.
We're promised constant wardrobe changes as well, like they are Barbies.
Yeah. No, I think it's going to be really good. And we don't actually know that much more about it other than what you've said, Katie. And yet the buzz around it has been huge. There was like a tiny bit of footage, like pap footage of when...
on a beach
of them like rollerblading, Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie. And it was huge. It went everywhere. I think the expectations high for this. This is what I mean. I think next year, of course, there's still things like The Fabelmans, but I think it's fun. People want some fun stuff. They want some wacky stuff. They want some wild stuff. And now that, we're so used to kind of our big blockbusters coming out all the time, people are looking aside from that, like, what's a bit different? What
I do love how we've just raved about 2022 and now we're like, oh no, actually that was rubbish. Next year though, it's going to be really funny and we're going to enjoy that. Not like this old rubbish. But yeah.
Back to TV then, one of your favourites, a return to the world of Succession. Now, can they keep up the quality? It's so hard, isn't it? I mean, they've managed it so far, haven't they? But you just think, how can it keep being so good?
Oh, and the cliffhanger from last season where it was just the ultimate twist of the dad turning on the rest of the family, his children. And it's every single time they end those seasons with a cliffhanger that just has you going,
I can't wait. What? I can't wait.
I can't wait. I literally can't wait. And I'm very excited. And this is going to be a good year that we get Succession back.
And also returning is, of course, Doctor Who. But a new era. Many think that this is going to be a new and great era for Doctor Who. Russell T Davies is back in the writer's room and, it's a bit confusing if you're not a Whovian. I'm not. But David Tennant's regenerated, but we know that Ncuti Gatwa's actually going to come and be Doctor Who.
So we've got 4 Tennant episodes.
Yeah.
I think.
So, it's...
what a pick. Ncuti Gatwa is very exciting to have him as the Doctor.
Very exciting. And I think hopes are really high for this new iteration. People that have sort of stuck with Doctor Who through what's been perhaps not the most lauded era feel like it's going to come back to kind of being very zeitgeist again. So will you be watching, Stevie?
Definitely looking forward to this one. Ncuti Gatwa is like some actor that I've been, of course, loving in Sex Education. And just to see him take on this iconic role and see what kind of energy he brings to the table is going to be fun. Yasmin Finney, who was in Heartstopper, she's going to be the companion this year. And so to have a trans actor kind of be the other lead in this kind of system, like, you know, Doctor Who's been around forever. And so for them to really go out and like kind of change the script a little bit is extremely exciting, which also means that they are in for something new. Maybe we'll see a totally different type of Doctor Who, maybe a little bit more sexual. I don't know. It'd be kind of interesting. So I can't wait to see what they do with Doctor Who this season. So yeah, bring it on.
Bring it on.
It's quite an exciting year, isn't it, ahead?
Oh, yeah.
In the mood.
Don't do all your binging over Christmas and New Year and prepare for all the new stuff next
Yeah.
year. That is it for this episode and, in fact, this year. So thank you so much for joining us on Backstage. We will be back in January, of course, with more news, reviews and Hollywood interviews. But for now, have a very Merry Christmas and a lovely New Year. Bye.